Hello folks, Triple T Cat here, recording as per usual for the Zombie Arcade. And today, Shadows of Mordor. Middle-earth. Shadows of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor? Whatever, who gives a shit. The game got rave reviews. I wasn't gonna buy it, because it was like a licensed, franchise licensed game, so I mean, obviously, how good could it be? Why would I do it? So I was really surprised when it got the reviews it got. So apparently I wasn't the only one who was really surprised. Like, a viewer actually asked me on Steam if I thought that the developers had paid for the reviews of the game because it was so shocking that it was getting such high scores. There actually was some kind of dodgy stuff happening with that I read about with the pre-release coverage of the game in the gaming media, but overall, I don't think they bought the scores. To answer that question again, the game's actually really good. It's like Ass Creed with stealth that actually exists instead of the weird thing in Ass Creed where there's not really stealth. And the combat system, like if you imagine the combat system from Batman Arkham series, and if you just imagine that combat system, yeah, there you go. Just blatantly ripped right out of there. The little icons for when you got a counter even look pretty much like the same. So not a single original bone in its body gameplay-wise, but the gameplay works really well. I mean, I don't think it's, being unoriginal is not ideal, but it's not necessarily a cardinal sin as long as the thing that you do well. And so the combat feels really polished, it flows nicely. It's overall, the gameplay is pretty fun. That said, the combat gets old, especially since it's something that I've already seen a lot of, being a big fan of Arkham Asylum, and I played Arkham City through on the live stream a couple of years ago now. So, the combat's all something I've seen before. The side missions in the open world quickly just start to feel like a chore. I don't remember what the fuck was happening in the main storyline. So why do I still continue to play this game, considering that the core gameplay loop, while very strong, has gotten a bit old for me at this point, and I don't care about the main story, so, why am I playing it? I wanted to make a video about this game a week ago, but this question as to why I kept wanting to play the game was plaguing me. I couldn't answer it. It was tearing at the edge of my sanity, threatening to draw me into madness. Also, it was a pretty hectic couple weeks at uni there, so I didn't really have a lot of time to make the video. Anyway, but I think I know now why a game that is well made. To be fair, I wouldn't play it if the game was shit, even if it had this cool thing I'm about to talk about. The game's good. And just, But I think I know why I keep coming back to it, and it's the Nemesis system. And that's the obvious answer if you've read the press about the game, if you know a bit about the game. Well, fuck, yeah, that's the thing that makes the game different and unique, so obviously. But it's not obvious, because the Nemesis system, when I was reading about it before I bought the game, struck me as this thing that, I don't know, I thought it'd be kind of cool, but not really be that big of a deal. And for my first 3 or 4 hours of playing, I didn't think much of it. I thought, it was okay, I guess. It was just a gimmick. For those of you who aren't familiar with the game, I'll just give you a basic overview of the Nemesis system. Basically, as you're traipsing around the game's rather small, actually, open world, there are these Auric captains walking around, and you have this kind of scoreboard where you can see which Auric captains are alive, you can see which ones you know about, so you need to learn their location and their weaknesses and stuff like that, and you can see them, they're in this kind of hierarchy, where you can see which ones are higher ranked than the others, and so on and so forth. And they're wandering around, and you can murder them. A section of the main storyline requires you to kill a bunch of them to progress. So, it's kind of cool, I thought. It gives a bit more, it means there's like all of these sort of mini-boss type enemies, and you have a bit more, you can put a bit more of a name and a face on the foe instead of just seeing them as this completely faceless mask. But again, for the first 3 or 4 hours, and it's okay, I guess, but not really enough to make a game, to lift it above the sea of mediocrity. Well, a little bit above mediocrity because the gameplay was well done, but lift it above and make it actually good. And I just didn't see that happening. And then something started occurring in the game. Captains I thought I'd killed started showing up and taunting me about the specific way in which I failed to kill them. They'd have bandages as well in the appropriate zones where I had stabbed them or thrown them into a fire or thrown them off a cliff or had them eaten by a giant monster. And so that started to really, like, you start to develop these kind of relationships with these enemies who keep coming back, and you recognize their armor and their weaponry and their, even, you know, stuff about their body size and faces and stuff like that, and the types of taunts they use. You start to get to know these people, and it's kind of this playful relationship where you just want to fucking murder them. And even then, so that started to build, and then there was this time I was already fighting like 3 or 4 captains, and I started fighting one guy who was an old nemesis of mine. He'd actually killed me multiple times, and every time I ran into him, he had some fucking taunt about how I sucked real bad at the video game. So the guys just kept showing up, like more and more enemies, and they'd be like, "Is this a bad time, Ranger?" And then proceed to help him pound my shit. The last guy who showed up, he just kind of rocked up out of nowhere and got the killing hit on me. And as I'm there, on my knees on the ground, looking up at him, and this is normally where the Urukai would deliver, like, the slow-motion killing blow, he's just like, "Nah, that was too easy." Walks away. I've never been more angry. You know, I was insulted and humiliated, and I just had to fucking kill. Real hard, you know? And at that point, I sort of, I don't know, the game took on this whole other thing where I was ignoring the storyline missions. I mean, if I happened to walk past a mission on my way to execute my next vendetta against some piece of shit or a captain who either refuses to stay dead or keeps fucking me up or humiliated me, and, you know, so if I walk past a mission on my way to do that, I guess, you know. Like I said, the main story's not interesting to me. I couldn't even tell you the names of half the characters. But through just little sound bites and this clever system, these orc captains hold up the storytelling. They barely say anything, and they feel like stronger characters than you see in most games, even games that are supposed to be more story-focused. A lot of times, fucking characters are pretty weak, and here, though, characters, man, it's just there. And the whole thing feels, what really makes it is the whole thing feels dynamic. It's based on what you do in the game and what happens to you. So, I mean, it's really goddamn cool. It's what's kept me playing. And I think it's something that deserves to be talked about. You know, more than it has been. The system's been talked about quite a lot, but I don't know. I think that a lot of times people fail to hit on the right notes about what's so good about the system, and also the fact that it lifts up a game that would otherwise just be okay to being like really sort of something that is, you know, pretty fucking dope. I don't want to hype the game too much. I don't feel like I don't think that the 9 out of 10s it's getting are really deserved. You know, because the Nemesis system, as cool as it is, doesn't change the fact that while the game's really refined and polished, the gameplay itself begins to feel like a bore to me pretty quickly, and I expect I'll feel like I've seen all the Nemesis system has to offer pretty soon. Maybe the main plot will have picked up by then, although I kind of doubt it. Maybe not. I don't know. What I can say is that even if ultimately I'd consider the game to just be good, not 10 out of 10 gave me countless orgasms of gaming, it's refreshing to see something novel, like a system you haven't really seen something quite like this before. And it's really surprising for a franchise license game. You don't expect to see any kind of innovation from these things. You know, the fact that it was ripping off a bunch of other games that were successful was par for the course. The fact that it ripped them off well enough to be fun was already surprising. And then the fact that it had this new kind of idea, new aspect to it that really lifted the game up was shocking. Absolutely fucking shocking. So, I mean, good work to the devs on this one. It's especially nice I wanted to say, after so many years of games always just going for a cinematic experience, or from the gameplay being fully divorced from the storyline, like BioShock Infinite, which was a bad game, despite what you may think. It's refreshing after all this stuff where, the story, cinematic, whatever, to see that the devs have actually used the fact that this is an interactive thing, a video game, to enhance the storytelling. Something that always seemed like a much better goal to me for a video game than to make a cinematic experience. Actually, I fucking hate this focus on cinematic experience. I'm not in the fucking cinema. I'm playing a video game. Yeah, that's a rant for another time. Anyway, in conclusion, Shadows of Mordor, actually alright. Here's to you. Until next time, Triple T Cat out.